Welcome to Legend of the Driftwood Crown with Professor Epic.
Hello.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you're playing in Legend of the Driftwood Crown?
I am Demeclees the Future Whisperer, the Seer of Fates and Listener of Destiny. A divination wizard, if you will. I cast bones and read the cards, study the stars, and tell your fortunes. Or your woes, whatever they may be. I connect to the future, and it speaks to me.
How did your character get onto the Sea Serpent merchant ship headed to Seafall?
Knowledge is power, wherever you go. And, I have a feeling that there is great power and knowledge in Seafall. Perhaps my skill sets will be of use to those noble families of power there. Perhaps I can bring favor to their house and to myself through providing a powerful and strong, wise counsel.
Demeclees finds himself upon the merchant ship, the Sea Serpent, a spice merchant loaded from the southern princely realms with all manner of different spices. Nutmeg, cinnamon, chives, you name it, all stored in pots below. As you stand on the prow of the ship as it sails incoming to Seafall Harbor, you can see the statue of the goddess Mora, goddess of the tides. Above her, a large bejeweled crown sits upon the statue's head. The captain of the ship, a man named Magnus, and a hobgoblin, at that, approaches with his green, slightly hairy skin.
Hi, Demeclees. It's been a pleasure having you with us, but your coin has run out here, son. We'd be happy to take you on again, but we'd need more coin. There's a profitable market here. Make sure you talk to the Master of Coin, or do as you wish. We'll be headed back through these parts in a few weeks. We'd be happy to have you as a traveler again. We hope you are having a profitable voyage.
Well, thank you very much for all of the kind and steady waves across the sea. I see. Perhaps you should stay in harbor one night, for tomorrow may not be the fairest of weathers. May I suggest you take a drink or two and stay for at least a night? I can sense it. Doom awaits you if you leave today. Anyway, we'll see you on the next ride.
His eyes narrow at you, unsure whether or not he should take you seriously, but then he shrugs and walks back to the helm of the ship. Guiding it down, you can feel a gentle bump against the docks. The gangplank is drawn, and Captain Magnus waves and then gestures you to please leave the ship, pointing to a well-dressed man in a small wooden booth on the edge of the docks up towards the city.
Smells of fish around here. Perhaps I'm better suited for land. I shall wander and head towards the Master of Coin.
As you walk up, this section of town is cobblestone along the docks, and then there's one cobblestone pathway leading up into the rest of the city. Seafall is relatively small, probably 2,000 to 2,500 inhabitants, with the largest and most dominant thing being the statue of Mora that you pass on your left as you enter the city itself. Just past the statue, you will be able to see the hut filled with pages counting stacks of coin, and an elderly gentleman, probably in his late 40s, weathered in what looks to be ornamental armor.
Hello, young fellow.
Daichi Cinco, Gnomeling. You carry yourself with an air of authority, but we haven't met yet, to my knowledge. Who are you, and where do you come from?
I am a servant of the stars and the tides. You see, where I come from is a place far away, lost to my own memory. Perhaps it will come back, but you may call me Demeclees. I'm known as the Future Whisperer, the Seer of Fates and a listener of destiny. If you'd like me to, perhaps give you a fortune, I'd be able to see a little bit into your future.
I'd very much like to take you up on that. Although at present time, I must deal with these market vendors here.
And he gestures to a line of commoners looking increasingly agitated at you skipping the entire line.
I could see that we would have very little time, so I felt the need to come straight to you. I'll be out of your hair in no time at all. All I need is a recommendation to the nearest inn, and perhaps a good, healthy wine before I, of course, meet with the noble lord of the house. I believe his name...
Cedric, there's no way anyone with your esteemed language is going to be staying in an inn here, and if there's fortune-telling to be had, I'm sure my brother Cedric will want to discuss with you immediately. Are you traveling on an official house matter, or just traveling on your own?
The tides of fate have brought me here, but the clouds are not parted yet for the distant sun. You see, I know I am called here for a reason, but I have yet to discover that purpose. So if you're saying Cedric is of need of my services, I will humbly oblige him.
He stands and points down a dirt path to what looks like it's one of the only stone buildings in the town.
Head to Seafall Castle. Cedric will be there, a well-built man with graying hair. He'll want to offer you lodging in the castle, of course. Tell whoever's on guard out front who you are and that I've sent you, and he'll take you directly to Cedric.
Ah, yes. Oh, and of course, Cedric, his favorite of wines would be red, correct?
Huh. I'll be damned. Yes, indeed.
Of course. Might I be able to pick up a draft some way of some quality before I arrive? I feel quite embarrassed appearing before someone of such noble nature empty-handed.
I don't know if there's any foreign reds here, but if you take a quick wander through the market, there's probably a few local reds, and knowing what I know about my brother, he'll be happy with the patronage of a local establishment anyway.
Ah, yes, of course, a local establishment.
Daichi Cinco, good luck.
A pleasure to meet you, Daichi.
He sits down and beckons the next commoner over, which looks like a man in a cart loaded with vegetables.
On the way past the old man, may I stop for a second and just hold out my hand in front of him, and then I'll lean into him and say, "Ask for double price for all of your strawberries. Bad weather is coming." And I'll wander off.
His eyes immediately narrow, but he also kind of grins because you have an air of authority as you move through. The market itself is roughly 300 paces by 300 paces. It's really one of the only cobblestone structures in the city. Dirt tracks coming to and from, and other than that, it is just the market. It's filled with probably 100, 150 vendors at this point. Most of them look like they are local kind of consumption goods, so vegetables, honey, wild game, but you can spot what looks like amphoras, which would be either like bulk containers of wine, possibly honey or olive oil or something, some type of liquid like that you can go and investigate.
I'll approach where I see bottles of wine and red wine specifically. Can I just make an assessment of what might be the highest quality of good red wine that they might have here and start kind of perusing it?
You can smell it before you even get directly to the vendor. There is one particular amphora, probably maybe 2 or 3 liters. It's a nondescript bottle that smells like the wine that you used to drink. Definitely a wine designed for a noble. The rest of the stall's contents are clearly low quality, barely fermented wine, and almost certainly no aging process.
I would like to approach the vendor and speak to him about this specific vintage.
He waves you over. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Do you want to see some wine? Some wine? We make lots of wine here.
I would. It is very appreciative to be in your slight village, but I have such a parch. I'm looking for a vintage of quality, something of noble variety, but perhaps something also that may prove to be very drinkable all night, you understand?
He nods vigorously and then brings you over to not the quality amphora. What about this? Try this. Have a smell.
Ah, my. Quite a fine vintage for the local grape, you say, eh? I was told that who's the lord around here? What's his name? Oh, yes, Cedric. I was told that Cedric, might have frequented your wine shop at one point. Is that true?
Yes, we have a special wine just for Cedric. We bring it in every few weeks from the southern realms where we get the spices. They have a much sweeter vintage down there. Indeed.
Well, this definitely leans to my palate. Perhaps that sweeter of wines would lend better to my future meetings, you see. So, may I smell that one?
And he pulls over to the original wine that you've smelled, uncaps it, and offers it to you for a smell.
Ah, yes, excellent. Well, I do believe that there is a value in surprise. How much would one of these perhaps be for a bottle?
2 gold for every half-liter bottle. He gestures to some smaller glass bottles. I can fill any of those with a stopper, as you'd like.
Ah, well, I will carry with me 1 liter of these, if you'll do that. And might we, as I mentioned, surprise is of the essence here, might I be able to, make my presence here a unknown one for an extra gold piece?
He nervously looks around the market. All of a sudden, I guess the importer dropped an amphora of wine, and this is all we have left.
Excellent. So, please bottle up a liter for me, and I will dispense with the gold forthwith. A fine young gentleman such as yourself.
He eagerly nods, turns with the amphora, and goes to fill a smaller glass bottle. Corking it aggressively, turns around, hands it to you. Enjoy the wine. 'Tis the best. Enjoy.
I'll toss him the gold with an extra gold piece as well, and I'll hold on to my finger on the last gold piece and slide it over the counter. Now, what was my name?
I don't know, actually. Now that you mention that, you didn't even introduce yourself. What is your name, traveler?
Then I'll move the coin away from him as he says that.
You know what? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter names.
And what happened to the wine again?
All I know is it dropped. It dropped on the port coming in. Only 2 liters this week for the Lord.
Excellent. My goodness. Such a smart and wise young man. I see great things in your future.
He beams at you excitedly as he picks up what for him is a significant payday.
Till another time, or the first time we meet. And then I'll wander out. By the way, does the wine have any name at all, or is it just a bottle of wine?
Port Haven Port.
Ah, excellent. A little old P&P.
Can you make 2 perception checks?
First perception check. 19.
As you're wandering through the market on your way to the castle, the first thing that you see, I should say, is a vendor with a wide brim hat in yellow garb. Honeybees kind of surround her, but don't actually leave more than a few feet from her presence. You can see jars and jars of honey, big, small, sideways, sitting on the back of her cart. There's almost a crowd around her, and you can see another vendor that's close to her talking to somebody, and you overhear say that this is a woman from Amberstone Abbey who produces the best honey in the region, great for curing colds or any other small maladies.
Is there a price anywhere on anything?
No, you can see her a couple of stalls down. You've just overheard this. You can talk to her if you want.
I would like to draw up on her and just see if what kind of honey she's providing.
Lila Sunflower's my name. Honey is what I do at Amberstone Abbey. The bees seem to enjoy my lighter touch. Pleased to meet you, Gnomeling.
Ah, yes. Nice to meet you as well. I have heard your honey is good for those with an ailment. Is that true?
I make no particular claims to my honey, but there does seem to be some warmth that is spread from some honey in some hot water, or even with some lemongrass herbs, as a tea seems to do some coughing a whole lot of good. Not any more than maybe 2 spoonfuls.
Perhaps I would be interested in some, but are there many people around here who are sick?
Nothing more than usual. No plague or anything for years and years. Mostly just your regular colds and flus. Nothing crazy. Those of the noble birth prefer the honey when they can afford it for your everyday tasks.
Ah, what sort of everyday tasks could a noble have for honey?
Just spreading on bread or baking. They prefer the honey that my bees from their sunflowers have over the everyday man's honey, so to speak. In Amberstone Abbey, we have a different horticulture, and it translates very well to the bees that we've got.
Ah, yes. Well, that would make sense. High-born tastes and all that. So, does the famed Cedric shop here?
Not personally. I don't come to the market all that often. Though my bees are hard workers, I often don't come to the market unless we need something at Amberstone. My apprentice over there taking the donkey.
She gestures to a very hairy dwarf who's hitching the donkey on the other end of the hitching posts.
He is helping me with some supplies for Amberstone, and we figured it was a good time to sell some honey rather than an everyday. We're here, every few weeks. Cedric doesn't usually come himself. It'll be his brother, Alric, master of coin, that picks him up at the end of the day.
She gestures to a relatively large pot, probably half a liter of honey.
I've set this aside for them. It's usually what they pick up at the end of the day.
Ah, excellent. Well, how much for us? How much would something like that run a noble?
Well, this would be enough for a whole house of maybe 5 to 6 people. No need for something just for yourself. She gestures to a smaller pot. That would it's like the size of an orange. This would do an individual just fine. Just 3 silver pieces for this one, and I'll give you a silver piece back if you bring me the pot again in a few weeks.
Excellent. Well, I'll take that for now. And, as if something has just struck me. Miss, may I say, I can sense that Cedric will need your honey. He may even come to grab it himself. I can see it now. Stay an extra hour today.
An extra hour, you say?
I can feel it now. You are in danger, miss. Do you have protection?
Protection? What do you ever mean, Gnomeling? It's just a market day. No one here wishes me harm.
I believe you should give me my honey and let me be your final customer today. I get a very strong sense, I can feel it in my bones, that something very bad is going to happen. And it has to do with you. Believe me, I loathe being the bearer of bad news, but when these feelings come over me, I have to tell them, for perhaps I can prevent such a catastrophe. You understand?
Make a persuasion. And I'll give you advantage, because this is pretty persuasive.
Persuasion, would you call that? Okay, or deception, because I wasn't sure if I'm lying or not. So,
you know what? Let's do a deception. Deception is going to be more interesting.
15.
She looks at you gravely.
Well, Gnomeling, I don't know why, but I seem to believe you. I will pack up my wares shortly. I'll ensure that our young apprentice gets the supplies and that we're out of town before lunch.
I would suggest you do so quite quickly, and I'll take a jar of honey for the road.
She fishes out a small jar about the size of an orange for you, hands it to you, and then extends her hand for her coins.
And I'll give her the coins.
She nods to you, and the bees continue to... They'll, like, flutter and sit on you, but you never really get the sense that they're ever going to sting you. Make another perception check.
This one is 2.
You realize that what you thought was clanging of stone hammers in the castle on the scaffolding is actually hammering from the blacksmith shop behind you. You can continue to the one on the market, or you can head directly to the gates.
I will head to the blacksmith and just see if I can strike up a conversation.
So as you approach, you can see a little blacksmith. The forge is roaring, and there is a hammer, just a literal hammer, hanging in place of a sign. You can hear the clanking of hammer on metal from inside the forge. Make an investigation check on some of the nearby tools.
Oh, so close to being a 20. I got 8.
From the looks of it, they look like they're relatively well made, but you're not really familiar with metallurgy, so it might be kind of shoddy work, but it seems like he's pretty decent. And with that, he turns from his clanking and notices you there.
Oh, hello there, Gnomeling. Garrick Ironbrow's my name. I'm the blacksmith here in Seafall. What brings you into me hammer?
I was drawn here by the tides of fate, if you can believe it. I was told that there might possibly be something here for me to pick up. I believe it was supposed to be for a Cedric. Does that mean something to you?
Cedric? You mean the Tamir of Seafall?
He thinks about it for a minute.
Well, he doesn't have any orders placed right now, but we're pretty new to town. I don't know if you knew this, but we came from another house. Cedric has offered us a place of high esteem here in Seafall. My young apprentice here.
And he gestures to a small, clearly younger dwarf. He's of age, but he would be like a late teenager.
We come from Hammerfall Mines and House Ironhelm, some of the best blacksmiths in the whole kingdom. We were offered a nice shop here, and, well, despite maybe some disappointment from those in my house, we took them up on the offer. Mostly boring work, if you ask me, fixing farm tools, but I'll never turn down a request from Cedric. Do you have any idea what he was looking for?
Oh, I was hoping you might have an idea for that. I came here out of pure instinct, you see. I don't always see the pictures as clearly the first time round, but when I hear, they sometimes crystallize. Surely Cedric brought you here for a purpose if he gave you a store in his town.
Oh, aye. He said that the last blacksmith couldn't hit cow standing in front of it. He was having problems with his farm plows breaking on roots. He wanted to expand the farming zone outside the city, keep people in better food stead. Not very interesting work, so to speak, but, you know, it's a pretty good living, and back at Hammerfall Mines, they never would have given me a shop like this.
And he gestures to what seems to be, like, now that you're in it, a pretty expansive blacksmith.
And I even got to bring Zinky, my apprentice,
who meekly waves at you.
That being said, the last time I got a look, I think Cedric's trident, which is, of course, his preferred method of fighting from House Seafall, it's pretty well made, but I bet I could make a better one for him. It'd take me a couple of weeks, of course, to make something of good quality for him, but I wonder.
My goodness, well, I imagine that if he received such a trident, he would be of such wondrous appreciation for you. It would only increase your standing. Does it not make sense? I don't know about you, but I've always found that the way to a bit of profit and a bit of goodwill often comes in the way of gifts.
Oh, I hear you, Gnomeling, but that's good quality steel, and unless Cedric requests it, I won't be replacing his family heirloom there. It's outdated, and we could do a better one, but I'm not going to take a risk hoping that. An item like that would cost him a fair 10 gold. I can't risk the materials unless he's willing to pay for it. What else would I do with a trident? Get grapes on it.
I see. Well, the way I see it is 10 gold is an investment. Have you heard of the term investment before?
Oh, other dwarves talk about it with their gold mines, but me and Zinky here mostly take a look at what we're doing in front of us, and we keep the farmers happy here.
Well, I get the sense that you're a good person, and as I myself have once in a while needed the help of a blacksmith, and I'm here to make friends, might I perhaps put a deposit down on you starting something like this? And I figure maybe it could be a surprise gift, and if it works in favor to bring more favor to your shop, then you owe me a favor down the road.
Make a persuasion check with advantage.
Persuasion with advantage will be 14.
Well, Gnomeling, you got yourself a deal. If you've got a deposit, 3 gold pieces should do the trick for the materials. I'll craft the best trident that Cedric has ever seen. It'll never break on him.
Of course. Wise fellow. And I'll go out to grab his hand and then do one of those, like, shocked moments where I'm like, oh, wait, I am getting something. I can feel it. I'm going to look at him intensely in the eyes from down below. I'm assuming he's taller than me. You have great fortune in front of you, and I can tell the tides of fate will turn in your favor for this one action. You have made a great decision in this moment.
He raises his eyebrows in surprise, almost having them disappear into his hair.
But there is a catch. Fate always takes its toll. You must never speak of this being me, for if any of this recognition washes off onto me, it shall not bring you any favor. I was brought here by the fates in which to raise your station. Do you agree you will never speak of me?
Well, I guess a deposit's a deposit. We'll see what happens after that.
And he shakes your hand and then holds out his hand for the deposit of coins.
I will go into my pocket, reach in, and give him the gold pieces. It has been a pleasure to meet you, and may the tides of fate rain down many riches and fortuitous fortune.
He nods gruffly at you and then turns back to Zinky, who has heated up what looks like an iron bar to be beaten on, and he turns back to beating on the iron. The floor is back to you. Do you want to go back to the market, or are you more or less suitably satisfied?
I'm satisfied. Let's go to the castle.
Walk along the dirt street on the outside of the market. As you approach, there's a single guard standing out front. Seems like a relatively well-built individual, and as you approach, he looks at you directly.
Halt, traveler. What brings you to Castle Seafall?
Well, I have an audience with Cedric, you see. Alric has sent me to speak with him and provide my services. My name is Demeclees the Future Whisperer, Seer of Fates and Listener of Destiny. Demeclees Glimmerleaf, if you will.
He looks intimidated and nervous, both by your titles and by the abnormal caricature of your voice, and asks you no further questions.
Well, okay. Follow me. I'll take you to Cedric.
And just turns on his heel, leaving his post, and assumes that you follow him and walks directly into the castle.
I'll follow him.
As you walk in, the courtyard is very small, maybe 20 by 20 paces until you get to the Great Hall. You can see to your right, there in the scaffolding, there's a very large man directing what looks like 2 brothers on how to actually go about repairing the stone wall. There's a master mason there with 2 laborers that are fixing everything. As you enter the Great Hall, it's entirely empty. The benches on either side are clear, other than, some pitchers of water, and except for the very end table where you can see a late 50s individual sitting there eating figs and dates and cheese. Saeed approaches him, stands a couple of paces away until he turns.
What is it, Saeed? Why do you interrupt my midday meal?
Saeed turns to face you. This is... I don't remember your name, Gnomeling.
You must be Cedric. Is that correct? I am Demeclees Glimmerleaf, and also known as the Future Whisperer, Seer of Fates, and Listener of Destiny. You see, I was on my way through, and your brother sent me here, said you might partake of some advice and fortunes to be told in your future.
A fortune teller, you say?
Diviner. Fortune tellers are mere tricksters, you see. I see the tides of fate, commune with the stars, and read the bones. I can't quite explain it all myself, but I get feelings sometimes, and they guide me towards my purpose and the correct actions.
He thinks and pauses for a moment, and then from that point he looks at you and says,
Well, sit with me, Demeclees. Saeed, you may go back to your post. If you are a diviner, as you so say, I have many questions for you. We'll sort out one way or another whether or not you are true.
and he gestures you to sit with him.
A pleasure. Would be quite happy to.
Are you hungry, Demeclees? You are welcome to partake in any of the figs or cheese.
Oh, just a little bit of bread, if you may.
And he pushes you a bowl of dinner rolls, but they're more crunchy on the outside. I am the Tamir of Seafall and head of House Stormrider. Tell me, what brings you to Seafall as a diviner, as you call it?
As I've mentioned, the clouds have not parted on my purpose here yet. I unfortunately come from rather a tragic story. My family, they have passed. I'm a distant cousin, but my mother and father, they passed on, and I was a little bit lost. And so, upon my trek as a saddened and recently orphaned son, I went out to explore the sea, hopped on the first ship that would have me, and they were heading for Seafall. As I got closer and closer, I felt quite certain that this was the place I was meant to be. And upon arrival, mentioning my skill sets, your brother Alric propositioned me to come here and speak with you. Now, it is quite a weird and strange circumstance that a man straight off a boat may get an audience with an illustrious fellow such as yourself, but such is the way of fates. I do not question them. May I be of service to you is really what I actually feel is the real question, for something has pulled me here to be in this moment now.
Well, that's a good question. I only have those in my court whom I can trust, and I have met you today, so I cannot extend you a branch of trust. However, in due time, if the skills that you claim to have seem to be true, we could certainly use educated advisors on my council. Seafall has many befitting problems. My mother was a bit of a shrew, so to speak, if you're not familiar. She's very pious, not very open to merchants. We've had some hard years under her leadership. We've tried to turn it around in the last decade or so, but it's an uphill battle to get merchants to come back to these shores. Good advice is always welcome here in Seafall. I'm sure you noticed the stonemasons fixing the gatehouse on our way in.
Was there something that broke it? Or is it just weathered from time itself?
Just time. My mother and even my grandfather before her really had no interest in keeping the castle well maintained. Nearly 50 years of neglect will tear down even the hardest stone.
Well, time does weather us all, as you may see. I have a couple of lines upon my brow as well that time has forced upon it. May you partake in wine by any chance, Cedric?
I am a connoisseur. I have wine brought in from princely realms. Actually, I believe my favorite is from Port Haven. Yes, if I remember right. There's one from, House Brightwater. The Tamirs of Port Haven make the best wine in the kingdom. I must say, one of the few indulgences in my life is to enjoy the wine from Port Haven.
Now, I would not say this is all perfectly aligned then, but by some happenstance, I myself have come across a Port Haven port upon my travels. Could you believe such a thing?
His eyebrows shoot up immediately.
And it bodes well for our budding friendship. But alas, and I'll pull out the port wine that I have.
Mara's underskirts.
See, it was drawn to me. I saw it upon a merchant on the way in and felt completely obligated to buy it. Something drew me right in.
How did you know such a thing?
He takes the bottle and uncorks it and smells it.
This is the real thing. Real Port Haven port?
He quickly pours out the water in the cup in front of him onto the ground, just onto the flagstone itself, and then hands you a cup and pours some into each of the 2 tin cups. Brings it to his lips and smells it first.
Ah, Port Haven port. Nothing better.
Well, yes, I actually don't drink very much. It slows the mind and clouds the visions, but I felt that it was the right choice when I arrived. It turns out it was. And I gifted it to you as a welcoming gift. But let's toast before we continue our conversation. I'll take a sip, and then as I sip, I'd like to go, ah, and drop the glass, and then lean back and say, Sir, I have such a vision of me right now. I can see you have some form of doom coming to your town.
Are you sure it's coming, Demeclees? Or are you sure it hasn't passed already?
I can feel it, buzzing of bees. I can tell the buzzing of bees. I can hear it. It's getting clear. With the buzzing of bees, may the sweet merchant's demise be felt among all. Does that mean anything to you?
He thinks for a moment and then shakes his head.
No, not today. But sit, for there is a tale I feel obligated to tell you.
I am all ears.
My first wife bore me a son, Henry. I cherished the boy, and at that time I did not have any pressing duties. I raised him, I spent days training him, we rode together. But some around his 14th birthday, he disappeared. We never found a thing. We led search parties onto the ocean, we led search parties through the woods. There was not a trace. Gone. Just but a whisper in the wind. I haven't heard of him since. My wife, at the time, was so taken with the loss of our son Henry that she dashed herself upon the rocks later that year. It was not until pressure from my brother to remarry that I have done so, but not a day goes by where I don't miss my Henry.
It is a tragic story, and I appreciate thy sharing it with me. May we toast once more to your son Henry and your great loss.
At that point, you're interrupted by the screams and cackles of 3 children running into the Great Hall. There's 2 girls and a boy. The 2 girls are older, probably between 9 and 11. The one girl is then, 6 to 8. And then there's a boy who seems to be moving really well, despite the fact he's probably no more than 4 or 5 years old. And they run up to Cedric.
The honey merchant's in town. Can we get Amberstone Abbey honey? Please, Daddy. It's so delicious.
Did you say Amberstone Abbey honey?
Cedric turns to you.
Yes, there's an abbey about not even a day's ride, just into the woods. Small commune, no more than 60 souls, but there's a woman there who's been keeping bees for more than 40 years, and my God, is it not the best honey? Not as good as this Port Haven port, I'll say, but my family can never run out of Amberstone Abbey honey.
Ah, well, I imagine that must be great. Do they flavor it with lemongrass and flowers?
Sunflowers, in fact. Good guess, Gnomeling. Yes, indeed. It's a patch of sunflowers that the bees feed on. You are on the ball. There's something strange about you, Gnomeling.
Sometimes things just come my way. But a thing to remember, sir, is coincidences do happen. I wouldn't want you to trust me based on a guess of honey.
He stops for a minute and stands up.
Demeclees, let me present you with my children. This is Isabella, she's 10. Margaret is 7. And this is Turk.
Who's the little 5-year-old who gives you a shy wave.
Ah, and these are your heirs, I see. Young Turk, looking forward to sitting in Daddy's chair one day, I'm sure.
He shyly hides behind his dad. Although he's about the same size as you, as a gnome. These are the children from my second wife. As creaky as an old merchant galley they are. But what else can a father do but say yes, eh?
Ah, yes. So, have you begun his training with the trident? I've heard many a good thing about your house symbol.
No, not until he's 8 or 9, I think. We'll do training there. Still practicing footwork with sword and buckler. That being said, children, go fetch me my trident. Demeclees, will you join me in a tour of Seafall? The trident really only makes a good walking stick these days.
Of course. I would be happy if you would guide me through your town.
The children scamper off. Cedric sits, eating a few more things. There's some idle chatter, and the children return a few minutes later with a two-handed trident, probably standing like 6 feet plus the prongs, so 6.5 to 7 feet tall total. Cedric picks it up and beckons you to follow him as he walks out of the Great Hall, using the trident as a walking stick.
My, this trident of yours is impressive, especially next to one such as diminutive as myself. Is this still functional as a weapon, or is it purely show?
We're a pretty peaceful place here in Seafall. I imagine it would be as good as a weapon as it ever was, but we haven't even had so much as a goblin sighting.
You get to the corner of the market.
Here is the market square, although I've imagined you've taken a walk through here to get from Alric to me. It's 100 by 100 paces, all fresh cobblestones in the last few years. The vendors complained forever that there was dirt and mud on bad days, so I went ahead and had it done in all cobblestones. Of course, the vendors are never happy. Merchants are never a happy lot. But at the end of it, there's less complaints than there was, and it certainly shows the merchants were serious to have them come back.
One would only wish to pursue future great goals if they were actually of challenge. They say great things only happen when you overcome the hardest of challenges. Sometimes the words overlap themselves. But let me say, this town is quaint and quite joyous. You have done a wonderful job here. Do you have a favorite place in which you like to shop?
Depends what you're shopping for. Though, if you get a chance, I'll take you down past our docks. There's a produce farmer whose family has been here nearly as long as mine. He has the crunchiest carrots in town. If you will partake, I'll go and get us some carrots.
Ah, yes, absolutely.
As you walk down the edge of the market, he points to the giant statue of Mora.
Our statue, I think, is the thing that we're most proud of. It's been here since the founding of the town. Lost to history as to who built it, but the crown on Mora's head absorbs the light of the sun and then projects it out into sea at night, guiding wayward sailors here to our docks. It's never left her head as far as we know. It brings travelers of all shapes and kinds to Seafall.
A great and illustrious crown, appropriate for one such as God of the Tides.
With this, you guys come to a row of vendors. Between a produce cart and the blacksmith shop, you can hear the clang of Garrick in his blacksmith shop pounding away. Cedric stops, waves over to the same produce vendor that you had spoken to of strawberries earlier in the market. His cart piled high with produce.
Elias is his name, 4 kids in all, runs a large vegetable farm outside of town. He's been coming to that exact spot for nearly as long as I can remember. The blacksmith is new, though. I should say a new forge, anyway. His name is Garrick. Stole him away and his apprentice from Hammerfall Mines. And House Ironhelm. Damn good blacksmith he is. His plows pretty much never dull. His chains never break. Though I am nervous that he's going to get bored making mostly farm equipment.
Ah, well, perhaps a new trident will be in order.
This here trident's been in my family for generations. Couldn't possibly imagine using anything else, but if you're ever interested in learning how to wield a trident, I'd be more than happy then to give you lessons, Demeclees.
Oh, my fingers and hands could not be bothered with such things. More in tune with the manipulation of cards and the casting of bones, if you will, than real combat equipment.
Cedric nods and then turns to the produce vendor just to your left.
Hail, Elias Greenleaf. How goes the market today?
The older man struggles to rise, clearly with bad knees.
Hello, Cedric. Oh, it's a fantastic market day so far. Met a preacher on the way in. Bought a bag of carrots for a whole 2 silver pieces. We're off to a good day. I've even gone in to your blacksmith shop and gone ahead and ordered a new plow to expand my vegetable fields. How are my sons faring up repairing your gates? Are they doing a good job?
Cedric turns to you, Demeclees.
Did you notice those 2 boys fixing the castle gates? That's his sons.
They're working well under the stonemason's tutelage. One of them is a little more clever than the other, but I suspect you already knew that.
Elias nods and turns to you, Demeclees.
Who is this fine gentleman here with you?
Ah, you call me such a fine gentleman, but don't even know my name. Your town truly is very kind. My name is Demeclees, the Future Whisperer, Seer of Fates and Listener of Destiny. But today, you can just call me Demeclees.
Daichi Cinco. I'm Elias Greenleaf, a merchant vendor. We've got a large vegetable patch outside of town.
Cedric, tell me more about how my sons are doing on that gatehouse. I'll need them for harvest soon, and I'm hoping the work won't take too much longer.
Demeclees, can you make an investigation check?
Do I get a sense that something is coming as in like a storm is coming?
It's a presence of danger as opposed to, there might be a weather storm coming as well, but it's almost a sense of imminent danger.
I would like to grab onto the side of Cedric, one of his robes, and get his attention and pull him down closer to me. Sir, might I suggest we head quickly back to safety? I am getting a strong sense there is danger afoot. I cannot tell what, but we are not safe here.
His eyes narrow suspiciously. Can you make a perception check?
12.
Just over the side of his robes, you see movement, but you're not sure what it was. You saw something skitter into an alley, but you don't have any. You just kind of caught it out of the corner of your eye, but you're not sure what it is. Cedric stands back up from your pulled position.
Come now, Demeclees. There's nothing that could go wrong today. Your omens can't always be right, but the market is peaceful, business is booming, and we haven't had any problems here in Seafall this whole summer, other than maybe a few pirates, but they're not going to trouble us on market day.
I understand, and I will not force you to do anything. But when I get a feeling, I trust and heed it. Might I ask that you tune your ears and open your mind for just a minute. Perhaps you will feel it too. Listen. There are no birds. There are no sounds. Something is coming. Rest assured, I am never wrong with this feeling. Do you have guards, sir?
Of course. More than a dozen stationed throughout the city. 3 of those are in the market here.
Might we at least check in with them before we proceed?
Can you make a dexterity save for me?
10, I think?
In that moment, you see a goblin head poke out of the alley where you had seen movement just a few seconds before. The goblin stands and hurls a javelin directly at you. But because you noticed him prior, you're able to get out of the way and push Cedric out of the way of the javelin as well, and it clatters in behind you. You hear a trumpet sound, and chaos completely breaks apart in the market. After the trumpet, it would appear that there are goblins spewing from everywhere. They come through the gate, they pop out of baskets, you can see them on the roof. Cedric looks startled and is staring at you. The floor is yours.
There's no time for I told you so, sir. May I suggest we move quickly back to the safety of the keep? Follow me.
I can't leave my people. I need to be here to keep these goblins away. Demeclees, are you armed?
I have some spells that may be of use.
Well, follow close. I will make sure that at least a few of these goblin wretches stay out of my market.
He turns and starts to run towards one of the goblins, quickly skewering the tiny creature. He's then found by 2 more goblins, and he begins to fend them away with his trident. You can see another goblin headed directly for your produce farmer, and as you noticed before, there are some goblins on the roof of your blacksmith shop. Are you going to follow Cedric, go to the farmer, or go into the blacksmith shop?
So the farmer is about to be attacked by a goblin, correct?
Correct.
I will cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter upon the goblin about to attack the farmer and try to incapacitate him.
Okay.
So the DC for this spell will be 14.
The goblin got a nat 20. So he can feel the spell hit him, but it doesn't incapacitate him, and he rushes and kind of tackles and stabs the farmer in his leg with a small dagger. The farmer pulls out a rake to try and poke him away. Roll a perception check just while I have you here.
17.
So you can see that Cedric has swept aside another one of his goblins, but 2 more have appeared. So he's now dueling 3 of them, and there is blood on them, but you can't tell if it's his blood or the goblin blood. He doesn't seem to be slowing down in any capacity, but the goblins behind you on the blacksmith have disappeared.
When you say on the blacksmith, is the blacksmith dead?
There's no way to know. There were 3 goblins that were on the roof of the blacksmith.
Okay. Can I go into the blacksmith to see if there is goblins attacking him there?
So the moment you enter the blacksmith, you can see pandemonium raging. The assistant of Garrick has been killed by the goblins. You can see his body lying next to one of the forges. There's 2 goblin bodies lying next to him. Garrick himself, wielding a large hammer, he's not got any armor on. He's fighting 2 goblins of his own.
I will take another crack at Tasha's Hideous Laughter this time at one of the goblins who's attacking.
Okay, so this time it hits the goblin. He doubles over in hideous laughter, completely incapacitated on the ground. Garrick looks to you quickly.
Oi, I forgot your name, Gnomeling, but I'm glad you're here.
Shall you dispense with the goblin, or shall I?
He swings the heavy hammer at the goblin, who dives out of the way and hisses at Garrick.
Well, I'm trying to get this wretch, but he keeps hopping away from me like a coward.
Can I do a mind sliver at this guy? Disorienting spike of psychic energy into the mind of one creature I can see.
You can feel your psychic sliver enter his mind, and it causes him pause just for a moment. Can you roll your d6?
6 damage.
Not only does it nearly incapacitate him, he drops his knife and grabs his head, and it gives Garrick the exact distraction he needs to land a fierce uppercut.
Haha, the brain of a goblin is weak next to that of a gnome.
Well done, Gnomeling. None of these wretches in my forge.
And he turns to the goblin that was incapacitated with hideous laughter and curb stomps him.
Well, I'm glad to be of assistance. As you know, you don't really know me each other. I'll see you around, eh? And I'm gonna wander out and see what the situation is with Cedric.
You hear a second horn blow at this point. Just as you're leaving the blacksmith shop, the horn signals you hear hissing of other goblins, and they immediately more or less disengage from combat and begin running to the gates to leave as fast as possible. Can you make a perception check at this point?
8.
So what you can see is a lot of pandemonium. People are not chasing the goblins, but you can see as the goblins are leaving, they're trying to carry as much loot as they possibly can in very goblin fashion. In fact, one of the goblins that was fighting Cedric is running away with a cooking pot stuck onto his head as a helmet, cackling as they run out of the gates. You can see Cedric not really pursuing them. You can see that he's kind of limping a little bit, but he seems healthy. But you do notice that the vegetable farmer is impaled against the cart.
Can I try and mind spike that goblin with the thing on his head?
What's the range?
60 feet.
60 feet.
All right, well, he has to make an intelligence saving throw.
He scored a 12. 1d6 damage.
So he will take 6 damage again. He is hurt.
You can see it nearly blast the goblin down to the ground, and he struggles to rise, drops the pot off of his head, and yet another goblin quickly picks up the pot and abandoning the one that you had spiked before. He's still conscious, but he's been abandoned by his friends.
Can I run up and attempt to knock him out?
You know what? Just make an intimidation check.
I will make intimidation check. I rolled an 18, and on his, he has to -1.
Your minus tips the balance in your favor. So he immediately throws up his hands in a form of surrender. Cedric hobbles over to you and stands next to you, putting some weight on his trident.
Demeclees, are you hurt?
No. I am, lucky small and quite, easy to miss, as you can see. But this one here was trying to steal a pot, and I thought maybe it might be wise to question them as to their actual lair or whereabouts.
He takes a look at you, and then the goblin, and then back to you, and then back to the goblin.
How did you know they were coming? No matter. You have earned my trust, and you have saved many lives today, including that of our blacksmith Garrick, who I assume is safe?
Aye, his assistant may not be so lucky, but a good blacksmith is hard to come by. As I've mentioned before, I'm glad I was able to be of service. Trust is earned much like silver with time and investment, and today has been a good time and investment in that with you.
I know, Demeclees, you do not belong to House Stormrider, but you are clearly of noble stock. We will need to track these wretches. Can I trust this to you? Will you put together a scouting party, track these goblins, find out where they're from? In fact, I'm going to have you take care of this goblin here, see what he knows. I'm going to head down to the docks. I will be back here in just a moment.
Without even waiting for your answer, he spins on his heel and runs to the docks.
I'll put a devilish-looking smile on my face and stare down at the goblin. Haha, I guess it's just you and me now. What's inside your mind will become very clear to me soon. And I'd like to tie him up.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's going to be a check required for that. You've already intimidated him, so he is more or less compliant. Do you speak any goblin?
No, I only have, I don't know. What's the rules for, if I have like a high intelligence, do I get more languages?
I'm going to give you disadvantage on all checks if you're going to bother to interrogate or torture him, because his common language is not very good. So we're going to give you disadvantage on those.
I also have the spell Comprehend Languages. Maybe I'll bring him into a place where nobody can see me, like potentially the blacksmiths.
All right, into the blacksmith shop you go. There is tools and everything knocked over from the combat, and the bodies of the goblins and the assistant are still there. You are more or less deserted.
I will attempt to intimidate him into giving me information on the location of where these goblins came from. So it seems we are alone now, and you are without your friends. Such a dangerous time for you. Perhaps you could make it easier and find a way out of this alive, with maybe only a couple of your toes left. Where are you from?
I'm not telling you nothing, gnomeling. I don't want to hear nothing. Let me go.
Well, I guess it's not supposed to be easy. I'd like to use minor illusion to just use a spider. How about that? Because nobody likes spiders. I would like to pull a fairly sizable spider out of my cloak. Are you aware of the poison's effects of a deadly recluse spider? He can know it's an illusion by rolling a DC 14 intelligence check.
So he passed the intelligence check, but he doesn't know it's an illusion. Just turns out he likes spiders.
Leave me alone, gnomeling. Ratbag loves spiders. He eats spiders for breakfast. Give the spider to Ratbag. He'll eat it. He'll eat it.
Did you know that these spiders do not like goblins, and their favorite tastiest thing is goblin blood? What happens is initially a little pincer prick, and it turns into a large festering boil that slowly rots out the insides and liquefies your bones. It's quite painful. And this one is my friend. See, he does everything I say. If I just place him upon you and say go feast, he shall do so. Or I could just let you go.
You let Ratbag go.
I can see the future and see much into you. See, you have a choice right now. A fork in the road, if you will. If you choose the right fork, why, you could be sleeping in your own bed tonight. But if you choose the wrong one, well, you're going to have a very rough day indeed.
You won't let Ratbag go. You're lying, gnomeling. No one's gonna let Ratbag go.
You're not as scary as the Raven. We're way scarier than you. Leave me alone. Let me go, or be done with it.
Ah, well, if it's not spiders you hate, perhaps you'll hate this. And I'll reach into my jacket and pull out a little vial of the honey. Ooh, this. One scoop of this, and it'll make your eyes pop and turn you blind. I don't know if you want to see the rest of the world, do you?
No, I like my eyes. Ratbag's eyes are beautiful. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
So you're hungry, are you? Let's see, I'll just find a spoon somewhere around here. I know the blacksmith makes them. Ha! I'll get a nice heaping spoonful. Very sweet, this. It'll taste wonderful. And then the pain will come. Oh, unless you tell me what I want to know.
Can you make a reflex save?
Dirty 20.
So with this, he actually struggles violently against you to try and get away from the vial in your hand. And in doing so, breaks away from contact, pushes you away a little bit, and then bares his teeth and turns to face you.
It's not worth it.
And hurls himself directly into the blacksmith's forge.
Forgive me, Raven.
He begins to scream as the fire starts to consume his clothing and...
Well, that was a big waste of time, but I'll mind spike him to put him out of his misery. Perhaps not a full waste of time.
You can hear Cedric calling you from outside of the blacksmith shop.
Well, till next time. Well, never mind that. Anyway, toodaloo, and I will walk outside.
Oh, there you are, Demeclees.
You can see he's found his brother Alric, who was the master of coin you talked to at the beginning of the market day, who is, cut in a number of different places, but also seems relatively in good health.
What were you doing in the blacksmith shop? Is Garrick hurt?
No, but I was, utilizing a few tools. Unfortunately, that goblin was of little use.
Right, the goblin. Did he tell you anything?
Only that goblins are rather stupid. Does a raven mean anything to you? He seemed quite frightened of that.
The brothers Alric and Cedric look at each other quizzically. Alric speaks quickly.
What do you mean a raven? Like the bird? We have them here. They're common on the seas.
Aye, quizzical. The goblin was, referencing a great raven, funny enough. I will have to consult with my star charts, and perhaps a path will become clear.
Many were hurt today, and I have even far worse news.
Cedric turns and points towards the statue of Mara.
The driftwood crown has been stolen.
The crown that was on the statue is gone.
Without the crown, we'll have hundreds of shipwrecks. No one will be able to find our port. We need to get that crown back. We'll need to find out where the goblins went. There was a hunter that came into town, Sly Grimehook. He had tracked the goblins back to their camp, and he says he's found the famed fortress of Ardent Hollow. Find him. Last I saw him inside the Rusty Tankard Inn.
Aye, of course.
And now Alric speaks.
We need somebody of noble birth for a mission as important as this. But myself and my brother, there's too much to do here in Seafall after the attack. Demeclees, can we count on you?
I am at your service, Commander. I can tell now why the winds of fate have brought me to you.
Thank you, Demeclees, for your service.
And for the first time, you notice that Cedric is holding two halves of his broken trident that he was walking with before.
Oh, my. I might have guessed that the trident itself would be broken. I have a feeling, though, that a new trident will become ready for you. 'Tis time for a new weapon.
Thanks for listening to Legend of the Driftwood Crown, a You Rolled a One podcast series. If you're enjoying the series, feel free to leave us a review or tell your friends about the episode. If you want to talk directly to the players, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram. Until the next episode, don't roll any ones while you're shaving.